We're both trying to put out a project that has both your names on it and comes out of great quality. So
now he's talking about some of what may take place in a thing called the writer's room. The writer's room for the people in the back. So I write everything on my own, but I understand the writer's room. I collaborate with writers all the time. But the next phase or component or stage that we're going to speak on real quick, because we want to run this into a long thing here, is the aspect of pre-production. The most overlooked part of the whole production process, in my opinion, is serious, just as serious as any other part of it. Almost is up there at the top. It's up there at the top. A pre-production, if you're not prepared to just listen to that word pre and prepared. If you're not prepared to do something that's daunting as a film production, dead in the water any damn way. So you got to pay attention to that, and we're going to have old Heck here talk about what it's going to take to be prepared in pre-production.
All right, cool. First off, let me say this. I was a former Boy Scout. They emphasize be prepared. All right, so, I have that preparation just instilled in me just naturally. And because your perception on how professional you are and how you look is not, I came to suit with a tie on and expensive shoes. And no, it's about how you handle the things and how you got things taken care of. Pre-production is so important because, prior to this, we were talking about a project that Marcus needed that, required a soccer field. And I already had 2 spots on the go that are public parks that he could easily access. Well, are we going to shoot it now? No, because we're in Texas right now, and it's barely about to be September. The sun is real, and the temperatures are crazy. And you got to think, when it comes to things of that nature, if we were to shoot that now, think just alone on production cost, we would probably need, maybe if we were filming with just 4 people, we'd probably need 2 cases of water if we did it today. And these are cases of like 40 bottles, Whereas if we probably shoot maybe a few months later, towards November, towards the colder months, we could say, okay, here's, maybe just 1 pack of water. Now that's just an example, maybe it's probably going to be more. But something like that, production cost on things of keeping them hydrated, production cost on things of keeping them cooled, because especially if you're doing like a shoot like this, maybe it's a 1-day shoot, but it's rare that a 1-day shoot happens that involves outdoor activity. So maybe it's going to be a 2-day shoot, If it's a 2-day shoot, does everybody have the time off? Does everybody's schedule clear? I know the main thing is always whose schedule is clear. How's your schedule looking like? You want to work with people who are going to be consistent and coming with you. For a lot of us who are starting right now, for you who's probably just watching this, you're probably starting off right now. You can't offer a contract, and you could have whatever you want written on paper. If they break that, you don't really have the money for a lawyer to go take that shit to court, So if you're going to put friends on the project, make sure it's friends who are actually serious about it and they're going to come over. And it's okay to talk to your friends, Don't put your friendship on the line by saying, hey, if you can't come to this, then you're not really my friend. No. People have responsibilities, man. Come on. Be reasonable. So just work with them. Pre-production, you want to make sure that you want to think of the conditions that you're about to put these people in. You're about to think about the location of where you're putting on. You want to make sure you have permission to be at that location. All right. Or if people are going to flip out about you being at the location, some people, whatever, you're filming, all right, whatever, I don't care. Like, especially older areas, older shopkeepers, they're just like, all right, whatever, it's a kid doing a YouTube, okay, cool, yeah, whatever, But there's some areas where people are very strict and don't want anything on camera, so just take that into precaution, Getting the permits and everything is a long process, so I know there's a lot of people who I know film stuff in parks, because, as long as it's a public park, you're good. Be knowledgeable of the areas that you're going to film it. I mean, we live in Houston. Hey, man, some of the parks that are available, don't talk about how expensive the equipment is out loud. But just take everything into account. Take cost, especially, into account, but most importantly, take time into account, because think, if look, bro, if you have that one friend who's going to show up 30 minutes late, maybe give him a call sheet that's 30 minutes advance, that way he gets there on time. If you got to give people separate call sheets and they have different times, them, the people who you're getting into, or if not, if you don't know, just give yourself about an hour. There's a joke that says call time means we'll start in 2 hours from it. I've heard that various times. I've seen it happen various times. We were in a city with a lot of traffic. Maybe you're not in a city with a lot of traffic because, but just take into account everybody's time, take into account the conditions, take into account the weather, take into account what you want. If you want to go above and beyond, pay attention to the weather. If I want to shoot something, that looks ominous, if I'm lucky, I'm going to be like, okay, so low % chance of rain, but it is going to be extremely cloudy on this day. Perfect day to film. And yes, Andre from Outkast said, you can plan a pretty picnic, but you can't predict the weather, Just think of backup dates too, because no plan is foolproof every time something happens. But just take into account the cost of everything, having everybody on board, making sure everybody arrives, and just making sure that what you're trying to get, and be reasonable about the filming too. Sometimes I filmed stuff where the scene was only 5 minutes, but it took us 2 days to film, because you got to think of what's good for camera, what's not, and just that's more of an editing thing, which we're about to get to. But for pre-production, be prepared. Just make sure you got things in mind, things of how you're going to do it, things of how you're going to do it. Don't leave everything to post. Leaving everything to post, that's the kiss of death for a lot of projects, So make sure your equipment's up to par. Make sure your actors and that have good morale, Make sure you're doing things to accommodate them. And think about the cost. Like, I did think about the cost severely, Don't cheap out on anything, but, sometimes all you could afford is like there was a running joke, and I've said this, where catering just meant Little Caesars Pizza. If that's what you got to do, but at least you're catering them, all right? Just, if you're not going to pay them cash, for the love of God, be decent enough to give them water and food. That's it.
Now, how do you manage cost, and how do you set a schedule, and how do you know what props you're going to need? How do you know what actors you're going to need on what day? All of these things, the way you get to that is a thing called script breakdown. And from a script breakdown, you develop this production plan. Why it is that people skip totally over the fact that you have to do a script breakdown, it's just, to me, I don't understand, but I do understand. You just want to get to the production aspect of it, which we're about to talk about. But you're going to kill your budget if you have one, and you're going to frustrate the whole entire project if you do not do a script breakdown. If you're a writer who wants to produce your own film, you must do a script breakdown. If you don't know what that is, Google it, figure out what it is. Maybe we do a show on it, but this is how you know your schedule, day, what page this scene is going to be on, so that you can make your call sheets, things like this. You have to know these things so that you have a roadmap as a producer and a director as to what you're going to do step by step, because a film production can become an animal and a beast with its own life that will take over yours if you don't handle it properly with a pre-production and a plan. So now we're going to talk about production, which most people know and are familiar with, involving the acting, the camera people, the guy with the boom mic, and that type of thing. We're going to talk about that for a second. What do you think is the most overlooked, underrated portion of the production phase of a film production?
I think every role is important equally.
And when you say every
but-
role, you're talking about casting. Right?
Every role in both casting, every role that's actually, if we're going into production now.
Let me correct myself.
Yeah, hold on.
I'm sorry, we keep cutting you out, but casting is in the pre-production phase. I don't want to leave nobody confused.
Yeah, sorry about
But
that.
dealing with the cast is what I should have said. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Dealing with the cast, get a read for your cast. I think, look, I've said this before, all right? I get it because I'm an army brat, you know? But the title of what you have is just a descriptor. It is not a rank. All right? The only one who I think you would apply differently to would most likely be the director and maybe a producer. But for the most part, just keep your behavior up to par. Everybody has their own part to do. And if you're in one thing, don't judge another thing. If I'm in sound, I'm not going to go at it with the cinematographer on how the thing looks visually. Because, I don't really work with cinematography if I haven't done it really before like that nature. I've helped out in holding the camera and things of that nature, but I don't know the cinematography. So I'm not going to try to tell the cinematographer what needs to be done. And just like the cinematographer, maybe he worked for sound a bit, but I'm the sound person who got hired for this project. So I'm going to work on the sound the best way that I know. You know, now if he has advice that could help out, obviously I'm not saying shut out everybody, but if they have advice that could help you improve, take the advice that helps you improve. But at the same time, don't argue with your title of a rank, you know. Don't think that because you're the sound guy or you're the cinematographer or because you're the DP, you could damn near bully the production assistants. Everybody's vital to this, especially because we're talking to this for the intention of helping up-and-coming filmmakers, you know. If you're a seasoned filmmaker, you're probably not watching this. Not because you don't like it, or maybe you are. Maybe you're just listening to it, which if you are, thank you. Yeah, you know, everybody's coming up. This is the come-up phase for everybody, so treat everybody kindly, respectfully, because admittedly, you're taking this chunk of their time that they're not going to get back. You can't say that you're not. So give them an experience that was worth it, you know? Take everybody into account. I think some of the best directors that I've worked with were directors who had to do that little bit of everything because they understood or they were more reasonable with it.